All right. As I was setting up a new site, I thought I would just go ahead and record this. So this is basically the 5 template, and I'm just gonna do all the usual steps here. Okay. First thing you'll want to do on a dev account is you'll want to go edit your profile. And if you haven't done so already, you need to set up your developer registration. So you can go through and do that. Once that's done, if you can basically convert any template over to the developer platform. So what I'm going to do is, since I already have the 5 template installed, that's kind of where I always start. I'll just go to developer and then turn this on, and it basically says, by doing so, you just basically, you won't get updates for the template, which is okay. And then once you're on, you have the connectivity details that'll show up, as well as the template configuration information, all that. So usually there is Git information here, but that's been off for like the last week, maybe 2 weeks now. So I'm not sure. They must be working on something there. But anyway, that's all there is to setting up the actual Squarespace site. And actually, my my account name, I'm going to go ahead and change that because it won't make sense when I want to work. So go to domains and then rename. Okay, now what I'll do is I use Espresso. And so what you do with Espresso is under File, you would create new project. And basically what I've done is on my computer, when using LiveReload, which is that live refresh app, it doesn't work if you're using the Dropbox folder, so you have to save the Squarespace dev content to another folder outside of Dropbox. That's just kind of what I found, that there's a sync problem or something, that you just get an error each time you try and save. So we don't want that. Under my regular hard drive, I've got a folder, another folder, and then these are kind of my V6 projects. So at this point, I would just go ahead and create a new folder for this one. And basically all we need to do now is just save this directory, and it'll open up that project then. This is pretty simple to do, and I'm just doing this off of memory. It's the same every single time. So this is kind of the workspace for Espresso, and what we do now is, if I say settings, then it's prompting me to add a server. So then I would go ahead and do that. SFTP is correct. And then the server credentials, which actually I know by heart too, because it's the same every time. Oops. Developer. So basically the SFTP host name is dev.squarespace.com. So we'll just do that. and then port, I believe it's 2030, right? Username would be your email address. And the password you always use whenever you log into any one of your V6 sites. And remote path would be a / and then the account name, which in this case it's Pravasa-admin, and then a trailing / after that, and then you'd want to keep this at 10 connections. If you keep it at 1, for some reason, you can't upload. It's like a safety thing. I think if you had it on 1, you could just upload once, and then you'd have to wait for the server to disconnect before you can upload again. So it would keep people from, I guess, colliding, but we don't care about that because we're just going to be forcing content up there. And that's basically it. You would hit save, and then you just click in the upper right to close that. And then you click the cloud over here on the left, and then click the cloud in the middle. And there's the whole site. So at this point, we'd want to go ahead and sync the site to pull all the files down. So here you'd basically click on sync, and then the upper right, it's a little confusing. You don't want to click sync yet because this is showing that it's going to be putting files up, which we've got nothing, so I guess it wouldn't work. But at this point, we'd want to go ahead and say download changes from server, and then if you hit sync, and it's going to review changes again. So it's not going to do it until we hit sync again. So it's always going to do that, where it's not going to blast everything either one direction or another. It's basically showing you these arrows saying, this is what's going to happen. Do you want to do it? And yes, I do. Pretty fast. I don't think any files are very large, at least right now. And that's basically it. Then if you hit done, we could, if we just want to see if it happened, we could go ahead and see if there's anything here, but nope, all good. So, if there's arrows, I mean, you might have to do that kind of throughout the project, but usually everything, if it's just you working, it's not too difficult to see or just to know what's going on with that. All right, so now we're connected to the site. Piece of cake. The files that we'd see on the left side, assets, the assets folder, you can actually drop any content into the assets folder, and then you can browse to it, which is great for if you have like a third-party jQuery type plugin that has a whole folder. You can put the whole folder in there, and it'll keep all that structure, and then you can navigate to all those items that way. Or if you have an image, like let's say we want to drop an image in here. I've never done it that way. I don't know if I could. Actually, I'll just do it the right way. If I say show in Finder, that's what's happening here. So there's I guess it did put it in there. So but yeah, I mean you can basically just browse to that one folder always. So then if you're going to save any images for the site, it's a lot faster to do it this way. Obviously, because you can go in and just add content to this area. So let me get some more content in here. So it's basically the site name. Oops. Squarespace.com/assets. So it's actually going directly in there right off the root. So then assets, and then Kali.jpg is one image. So there's one image I just uploaded. Then let's go ahead and talk about styling and things like that. So, well, here's other blocks and things. So probably, you know, when working with like Squarespace templates, there's a lot of I guess like there's these background images and things like that are kind of always installed. That's where they're actually stored. So you start to see these things like, oh, that's how it's all done. As far as various collections, so a blog collection is all here, and this is all just, you know, code that is fully editable, and we, you know, we can get into some of the blog information here soon. Footer region is actually, you know, this is HTML at this point, so if you have to inject some code, you could actually do it here, like before body or something like that. So that works as well as like the header region. I mean, you can pretty much see that it's a little difficult to read, but once you start to see, you know, there's IDs here and there's this IDs inside that one, and I mean, you can pretty much start to see that, hey, this is, you know, this is the site. So you know, if you want to inject some code here, you can do that as well. It'll work exactly the same way. It's actually faster because you can, you know, edit it a lot quicker, and then when you save it, it'll automatically refresh and things like that. At this point, it's actually showing that I made a change because I actually did. So this would be a good example of, well, not the best example, but if I hit Command S at this point, it saved it locally, but it didn't upload it. But if I click this little cloud, when you save project files, quick publish uploads to dev.squarespace.com. So I want to make sure that's turned on. And let me check to make sure there's any other settings in here. Text editing. I think that's it. But we can troubleshoot that, I guess. Yeah. So now at this point, if I make a change here, it's going to detect that, you know, I need to upload something. So if I'm back on this file and I just hit, you know, Command S, it's gonna go. It's uploaded it already. So pretty quick. Full width region, header region, sidebar region. So these are all specific to this template. So this is all with the 5 template. And let's go ahead into the template configuration file. So here's where we basically see that, you know, Eric Anderson was the original designer of this. So at this point, I could go ahead and change this to myself, which I always do that because that's what you do. And then I would call this, at this point, that's what I'm naming this. And then if I go ahead and hit save, it went ahead and uploaded that. And then if I come back here to this page and refresh, then there's the information right there. So that's pretty easy. I mean, you can, as well as you can see, it's very, very simple to do. As far as the structure, most likely you'll be using styles. And when you start to look at these, you're just like, ew, I don't mess with these too often, or I don't mess with them at all. Actually, I just go ahead and create my own style sheet, which is going to be, it's going to work the same way as when you override like the 5 template when you're working on the custom CSS. But instead of using their panel, you'll just use your local CSS to do that. So what I always do is here in the styles directory, I can go ahead and say new file, and I'll just call it custom.less, and then just enter. And this doesn't, I mean, you don't even have to write less, you know, as far as the language. I mean, you can basically write 100% CSS and it'll work exactly the same way. But if you ever want to use less, then you'd want to use a less file. So that's why I always do that. And what happens then is all of these CSS files, when basically when the page loads, it's going to look at this configuration file, and it's basically going to load in each one of these style sheets in order, and it's going to cascade down to this one would be the last one to load. So that being the case, I always put my thing at the very end. I'll just do custom.less. Goes right there. So now what happens is my style sheet will also be included and compiled as well. If you put like an image file or something like that in here, it's not going to be seen. It's basically only going to be seen if it's dropped in the assets directory. So I mean, you can have additional things in here, but it can never be rendered as it can never be compiled and displayed within the website. In other words, it would probably be ignored. I don't even think you can browse to any other folders. I've tried that because I was trying to figure out how to do what I showed you first, and that was to navigate to that assets directory, and that's how it's done. So then custom less, we don't have to end that with anything. It's basically we're done with this now. We've kind of made our changes here, and now all we have to do is just hit save on this. And you know, if we want to see if it's kind of working, we could actually write some quick CSS. Let's just go out to the site and where do I want to edit? So there's an H1. All right, and what I will do is I'll just go ahead and make this there, just to fit in our monitor here. All right, so then at this point, what we can do is basically just say H1, and then if I put a bracket, oh, actually, I would have to go up and set under View Language. You can select less, but the color formatting is like horrible, and I've still yet to find a theme that looks good within Espresso. So I always keep that on CSS. And when you do that, it always pops up this extra tool panel, which I always hide. I always kill it instantly. I've never used it. I mean, because it has a pretty good type ahead kind of functionality, which you'll be able to see. So now if I say bracket, it'll automatically close and it'll automatically indent. And if I just say start to type the word display, start to type the word none, and if I hit save now, I don't have LiveReload hooked up, so I would have to come out here and basically refresh the page. But there, it's gone. So now I can say block, save, refresh. It's back. So that's how that works. I mean it's gonna things work really well actually. A lot faster than the Squarespace components do. I mean because you're working kind of locally here. It's a lot easier to save. You don't feel like you're going to lose your content because like towards the end of our project, I will come in here and just duplicate, and then it'll basically have like a backup of my CSS, and so it makes it a lot safer, I think. So that's one suggestion. But let me show you how LiveReload works now. And actually, what we could do, I'll do it here on Chrome, and then also show how it works on Safari. So what I would do now is I'll just open up LiveReload, and by default, it'll basically look at directories, so it'll monitor these directories for any changes, and then any changes that happen, it basically tells a script either within your local browser, or I guess it's always in your local browser because that's what it's doing. it's refreshing your local code. So in this case, I actually have a plugin installed in Chrome. If I go to extensions, LiveReload is installed and enabled. So if you just search in the Chrome store for that, you'll be able to find that extension. You can also find that information on LiveReload's website. So you can probably find the same information here, getting started, browser extensions, all those are there. So that's how that kind of works. But to set it up then, what did I do with it? Like went away. I guess it's still there, just hid. All right, so basically then would need to go ahead and tell LiveReload to look at the correct folder. So I would hit plus, and then I would go browse out to that newly created folder, and then just say choose folder. Easy. And then there's 44 file extensions that it'll look for. I always just say, okay, that's fine. Do whatever you do by default. And then for me, because my connection isn't that great, I usually have this set to 2 seconds before processing changes. So what happens is, I would save CSS, it uploads, and then 2 seconds later, my browser is supposed to process and then refresh. But it won't refresh; it'll just repaint really quickly. So I'll show you how that works. So then if I say apply, and right here it says waiting for browser to connect. At this point, if I activate the LiveReload plugin, we'll have to accept the script. It's just like a local script that's running. The page will actually reload, which I think it just did. Yeah, I guess it just did. There's not much content on it, right? And so now, if I'm here and I say none, and if I say Command S, I'm not going to touch anything. Chrome is a little buggy for me. Oh, there it goes. Sometimes you have to give it focus. I don't know why, but sometimes you have to either mouse into the browser or actually click, which I've started using Safari because of that reason. But let's do the other way around. Let's do block and hit Command S, and I'm not even going to move my mouse, and we'll see. See, it takes a little while on Chrome, but now if I mouse in, it'll appear. There must be an issue with Chrome doing that. So let me install that on Safari, and I'll show you how fast it works on Safari too. And then code injection here, we just put this in the footer. And I just want to make sure, in case my my script hasn't changed locally, I'll just go into my network preferences, and it has. Weird. So that's how this works, and that's basically the only thing you'd have to add to the page. And then if I say save, and it's going to work the same way as that plugin does. And just to make sure, I'm going to hold down Shift and reload just to make sure that my browser is happy, and I'm pretty sure it is. Now if I say none and hit Command S, there it's gone. So there's a little bit of delay, but it's just my connection here. But I mean, it's like a world of difference between other. Like, let's go to an actual site, and then here I will open up project for this. And that's all you have to do. You don't have to do anything with LiveReload because it's running and it's already set up. So in this case, what I would do is custom LESS. Here's one, background color. There it goes. So you can see that it makes a lot more sense when you're doing it yourself, really, but Control S. So pretty cool. I'll show you one more code hack. That's basically a lifesaver, and it works on 5 template. This is something that Jason sent me. Not sure really if it'll work on other templates. But if I go here to the header region and my body right here, fantastic code, easy. Now what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and close out of this because I'm not going to work on this site right now. I guess I'll go back to the site and let's create a quick page and call this page Tulips. So this page is now called Tulips, and if I say view page, oops, let me put some content in there. H1 heading, blah, save, view page. Is it white? Oh, I'm still displaying none. All right, cool. So let's go then back. Cool. This would be a perfect example. So the code that I'm going to add that we've copied from the other site is basically it allows us to body class. Just going to comment this out and paste that in. And if I hit save, it'll automatically upload that. Nothing will change yet. So now, what's really cool is that page was called Tulips. So I actually have a class now called Tulips just because I saved that page. So it'll follow the exact page naming, so you can create custom classes instead of going and inspecting for your IDs on each page. So it makes it a lot faster. Oops. H1. I might have to do Tulips. I guess I'll make sure that this did upload. Publish. And publish. And reload. There it is. Okay. I might just have been, so let's say none here. Let's say block here. So it's gone on that one, and on the home page it's there. So in other words, on this page now, if we inspect this, this code has actually put that word right there, which means there's now a class based on the way the page is named. So if you haven't already seen, it makes it a world easier instead of for sure. So I could say like worship. So that there's the styling that I basically use, where I would say, you know, worship page instead of long ID name. And so then what you can do with less, which is really fantastic about using less, is on this particular page. I'm gonna go ahead and make another blah, and I'll make this one italic, and I'll just say save. So we have that text there. So then with less, what we can do is we can go ahead and set up tulips, and within tulips we would say, I'm going to say H1 font size 30 pixels. And then I'll just go ahead and hit save now. So there we go. So font size there. Then if I go ahead and do that, then I can say font size 12 pixels or whatever. Use a lot of importance in the code doing it this way, but so there we go. So you can see with less how much you've kind of saved as far as less typing. So it's basically you can kind of identify each individual page, and then within your responsive your media queries, you can go ahead and add the same. I mean, you can go ahead and wrap those around that as well. So that's pretty basic, but you can definitely see that you're going to like inspect the code a lot less, and you're going to be able to move a lot faster doing it that way. So hopefully that's helpful, and give me a shout.